Well, this week and these coming weeks ahead, or as we start the Lenten season next Sunday, we're going to be talking about this theme of just looking at different ministries in the church and really even seeing how we're all part of one big unit. I think sometimes we get focused on everything going on at St. Paul's, and St. Paul's is probably one of the bigger churches in the diocese. There's just so much going on here that sometimes you can just get so focused on what's going on here, we can lose track of the bigger picture. And one thing we want to talk about today, just preparation for the rest of this month, is something we do in our diocese at least once a year to remind ourselves that we are part of one big church here. It's called the Idaho Catholic Appeal, or the ICA. As St. Paul said in our second reading today, brothers and sisters, be firm, steadfast, always fully devoted to the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. Our work of the Lord throughout the whole diocese and helping all these different ministries that happen, often they don't just happen by chance, right? There's people working really hard, and as the scripture says, the laborer deserves his wage. So one of the ways they get paid is by our generous contributions. Anything from people who do prison ministry, visit those who are incarcerated, sometimes youth, or juvenile detention centers, bring them the Eucharist, the teachings of Christ. Obviously our youth are learning the faith. The big ICYC convention that will happen next week, where almost 2,000 youth come and really evangelize, some of them meeting Christ in a really awesome way for the first time. Our seminarians, like Nelson, are going to seminary. Many of your funds help support them. Otherwise they wouldn't. So they don't have to worry about, how am I going to pay to go to seminary? That can be a fear of going to seminary. Well, how am I ever going to pay for that? When your funds go to them, retired priests. What happens when our priests, beloved priests who've been serving us for so many years, when they finally retire? So some of our funds go to help them. There's so many different examples. I think sometimes when we say Idaho Catholic Appeal or support the church, I wonder in your mind what your image is of the church. When I say the church, what do you think of? Do you think of this building here? Do you think of just our leaders, like Pope Francis or Bishop Peter or myself or Father Vogel? The leaders of the church, that's like 2% of the church. You made like a pyramid. The leaders of the church, that's just like 2%. In the news right now, we're seeing some problems with some of the leaders, but that's like 2% of the church. The church is all of us, all these amazing organizations, those who serve the poor, those who teach youth their faith, those who visit people in prison. Everything, right? Churches throughout the world, the faithful coming together. Our goal this year for our Idaho Catholic Appeal is $113,000. And that seems a lot at first, but we have over 2,000 families registered at the church. I think there's more people that come here who aren't registered. We're just generously asking you to consider trying to do the work of the church in Idaho to keep that going strong. What can you give to the church in Idaho from your own heart? Each one of us can probably give a different amount. What can we give, though, to help support our church in Idaho? All these amazing different ministries that we do. I know many of you are very generous in supporting our church here at St. Paul's, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Building Marist Hall, raising money for this church, all the things that we do, just paying the bills here. And we thank you very much. But this week, this month, we're really asking you, how can we help look even beyond that? How can we help support our own church here in Idaho? Last year, we didn't really push the Idaho Catholic Appeal, and only because we were really focused on Marist Hall and other things. Only 12% of the people gave here, and we still almost made 50% of our goal. That's pretty amazing. We're really asking this year, what if 50% of us gave this year instead of just 12%? People who are good with numbers, which is not me, told me if just 50% of our parishioners gave this year, we could make our goal. So we're just asking you, brothers and sisters, to, in your prayer or sometime this week or the next few weeks, of ask the Lord, like, Lord, what can I give, to help support the church in Idaho? Father Vogel and I have already given. We do online giving. That's just easier for us. We think the church is worthwhile giving to. It's an important organization. Doing the work of the Lord is something important for me. Not just because I work for the church, but I feel like that's one thing missing in the world often today. When people who have troubles, the Lord is not somebody in their life. How can we make Christ more present in people's lives?